And look at the example of the Prophet Muhammad cohabiting with Aisha in a small room. Peace and blessing be upon them both. So let's say for the sake of argument, and despite all the evidence to the contrary, that Aisha was in fact 9 years old at the time of quote unquote consummation. What does this word mean? And allow me to recall the two hadith that David Wood mentioned in his recent video where he said he was so confused, hadith 49:15 and 49:33 in Abu Dawood, which says the following, and I quote, "Some women came to me, and while I was swinging, they took me and made me prepared and decorated me. And I was then brought to the messenger of Allah, and he took up cohabitation with me when I was 9. Now note, none of these hadith in question, not a single one says the Prophet had sex with me when I was 9. None of them say that.
Bruh. Oh my God.
So why would translators use the word consummation in some hadith and use the word cohabitation in others? Is it because it's some big cover-up because the Muslims are somehow ashamed and looking for excuses? Or could it be that these hadith or these words are synonymous with one another, and that a marriage in Islam is actually ethical and considered quote-unquote consummated upon cohabitation, either with or without sex? So before I address those points, allow me to... So, yeah, this is my final point here. So this person says, for the Western mind, perhaps the most disturbing fact about, quote unquote, fact about the founder of Islam is that he has had a sexual relationship with a 9-year-old girl. And because of this, it's become increasingly popular in some circles to refer to the Prophet of Islam as a pedophile. He says, this is, of course, extremely offensive to Muslims who view Muhammad as the ideal servant of God and the greatest example of what a man should strive to be. Now, note, saying for the Western mind is implying that the Westerners are somehow more civilized than those in the East. It's xenophobic, Islamophobic. He's talking about Muslims. And what fact is he talking about? The one based on authentic hadith that have varying sources? And what circles, this is my final words, what circles call Muhammad a pedophile? David Wood circles. David Wood circles. And who wrote that article? David Wood wrote that article, 2009. And surely he should know by now that the Muslims themselves, and stop trying to disqualify the fact that the Muslims themselves disagree and you don't get to choose.
All right, for anyone just tuning in, we're debating whether it's immoral for a man who's the pattern of conduct for billions of people to marry a girl who's young enough to be his granddaughter and to have sex with her when she's only 9 years old. I'm arguing that Muhammad's marriage to Aisha was immoral. Kenny's arguing that Muhammad's marriage to Aisha wasn't immoral. In my opening statement, I showed that Aisha was indeed 9 years old when Muhammad had sex with her. I presented what's called an even if, but in fact argument. Even if Aisha had reached puberty when Muhammad had sex with her, it was immoral because sex with young girls puts them at risk. But in fact, Aisha hadn't reached puberty, and so the relationship was especially heinous.
If you look just at the Quran, you will get the indication that you can have sexual intercourse with a 5-year-old.